Talking point platform. TTPTV. Oh yeah. Unale we pledge with love and loyalty to we sweet, sweet mama salute. Now we all come together as one. For tomorrow, now we go make salute.
Radio. I am Zulaya Hamid. Let's begin with the headlines for tonight.
Press Secretary, Office of the President, Solomon Jamiru, reacts to U.S. visa restrictions on officials in Sierra Leone.
Believe that having a travel restriction at this point doesn't quite situate within what we consider to be the justifiable narrative. This is the most peaceful election we've had in post-conflict Sierra Leone.
Bike riders in McKinney staged sit-at-home strike following police restrictions.
Viral, so they expect them now for come out, but they still say they're not they come out because the fuel we don't go up now. Not to global crisis because they say that they compare another countries them where they feel say fuel in order to the way how it is na this country. So.
Chief Minister Dr. David Monina Senge interacts with staff and inmates at Correctional Center.
So I want to challenge you and the inmates in here to push your farms to make sure that you're able to grow the rice that you eat and that they're able to grow the rice that they eat.
Now for the full news.
Following the visa restriction policy invoked on some Sierra Leonean officials by the U.S. government, the Press Secretary Office of the President at State House, Solomon Jamiru, has said that the travel restriction does not reflect on the admissible account on ground. He pointed out that the June 24th election was the most peaceful in post-war Sierra Leone, adding that it was validated by many regional and international bodies, whilst emphasizing that the outcome was legitimate. My colleague Salifu Kamara reports.
The U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony J. Blinken, in a press statement dated 31st August 2023, announced visa restrictions to specific unnamed individuals who allegedly contributed to undermining democracy, rigging of electoral process, and more in Sierra Leone's June 2023 elections. But how does the government of Sierra Leone view the action? Solomon Jamiru is the Press Secretary, Office of the President at State House.
We believe that having a travel restriction at this point doesn't quite situate within what we consider to be the justifiable narrative. This is the most peaceful election we've had in post-conflict Sierra Leone. This is the election that was validated by the Commonwealth, validated by African Union, validated by ECOWAS, and we have other players as well. We are very clear on the legitimacy emanating from the elections. We're very clear about the fact that President Julius Maada Bio is the popular choice of the people. We're very clear on the fact that his legitimacy has not been questioned as the laws provide for. He was duly elected and pronounced by Section 42, subsection 3 of the Constitution, by Section 54 of the Public Elections Act. If anyone had any issue with the legitimacy or otherwise, then the laws provide for some kind of a petition to be filed in the Supreme Court. No such recourses took place. Maybe this decision doesn't quite depict the efforts that we have made as a people. But as I said, we have to accept it as a sovereign decision, and we should be able to engage with the United States government. It's a diplomatic and bilateral relationship that we cherish. They are a major development partner. They have been supporting Sierra Leone in a wide range of programs.
He further said that the government made significant strides in upholding democracy and human rights by repealing the seditious libel law, death penalty, adoption of the Gender Empowerment Bill, fight against corruption, among others. But it seems like the action came as a surprise.
We don't quite know what the scope is. We don't quite know who those individuals are, and we don't know across what spectrum. Is it government? Is it civil society? Is it opposition? We don't quite know. But once you say travel restriction on Sierra Leone, as a government, we are concerned. This is not the kind of development we would savor as a government and as a people. But be that as it may, we consider this to be the sovereign prerogative of the government of the United States. And all we can do now at this point is to engage diplomatically and otherwise and ensure that this decision is revised at the earliest opportunity.
Is this proclamation in a way compromising the long-standing relationship between Sierra Leone and the United States?
In the chain of relationships, the United States government would always stand out as a major bilateral and development partner. So that's something that would always jealously guard. So we don't want to view this decision and start overstretching beyond its justifiable parameters. We believe that this is a power exercised within their Immigration and Nationality Act. We are not confrontational with it. It's a sovereign government that has taken a sovereign decision. We just believe as a government that we have done so much, to consolidate our democratic dividends. We've done so much to nurture peace. We've done so much even for the just concluded June 24 elections, the most peaceful in Sierra Leone's post-conflict history.
The public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy in Freetown, Sarah Van Horn, in a virtual press conference, clarified that there are U.S. visa restriction waivers for certain events in the United States of America, and that the UN General Assembly this month might be one of the exceptions. She encouraged the media to counter misinformation and disinformation in reporting on the visa policy restrictions. Salifu Kamar, AYV News.
Well, away from that, in an interview with the Sierra Leone police with regards the enforcement of the use of helmets by bike riders and peons, the spokesperson for the Sierra Leone police, ACP Brima Kamara, has clarified that the effective use of a helmet has been phased out and that Sierra Leone police, together with the bike riders, have agreed to put on hold on the use of the helmet based on the concerns from bike riders and peons for the time being. My colleague, George Batilu Powell, sent in this report.
After issuing a press release on the 17th August 2023, notifying citizens of the operation, some bike riders and citizens within Freetown had expressed their concerns on the ban of bike riding in the CBD and the health risk of exchanging helmets. But in an interview with the PRO of Bike Riders Union, Mohamed A.T. Nabiu, he said that after hearing the concerns from bike riders and their peons, they engaged with the Sierra Leone police and other relevant authorities, and these authorities have agreed to address their concerns.
Get a meeting where we don't get an assurance, a confirmation, say this passenger helmet, because of all these reasons, where we don't raise up to them, then go suspend and force, make no policeman, no arrest bike for helmet, for passenger helmet. So please, the area of Fusade, we say bikes there for come out all over. That one day we don't say no, Papa. They are long way bikes and push bear instead of them come out. If they come out, they go sit down. And only junction they go able for do their own activities.
The spokesperson for the Sierra Leone Police, ACP Brima Kamara, in an interview responded to this.
Engage them anyway. To be quite honest, we've engaged them and we've told them what they are supposed to do based on the operations we have. We are phasing out the operations. If you bite too much, it will be difficult for you to swallow. So what we have decided to do is to phase it out. Let's start with the vehicles. We'll start with them, and then we'll come over to them as well, enforcing the aspect of the helmet, the crash helmet. But like I normally say, that one is for their safety. It's all part of what we call laws. We say it's legal paternalism. We make laws for the safety, for your own safety and for your own part. But we're phasing out the operations. We are starting with the drivers, those guys who are drivers, the garage owners, and then we'll come to their own area. But for now, we decided that we must start with the drivers. That's the only situation.
It was also mentioned that the ban on bike riding in the CBD is a continuous operation, and the clearing of vehicles on the roadsides and removal of garages on the streets is ongoing.
Then operational areas that we say bike not for going at the central business district, then they in a day in law. We not encourage no bike for ply day. That one day we cannot argue that. Then so government also don't accept that. But law will not block the main roads them. We don't draw lines them. We say bike for park, we say bike not for park. Now all we parks them across the country. So that one day also a day in full force. So
CBD has always been restricted. The CBD was not even part of the operations. It has been there. In other words, that operation subsists, and then we didn't cancel it. So we have not rescinded the operations. That operation is still there. The CBD has to be protected, and we still have to ensure that commercial bike riders do not come to the CBD. That one is different.
Police aims to restore sanity on the roads and ensure the safety of road users, and also improve on the free flow of traffic, but has only phased out the crash helmet for a while, which will commence immediately after this ongoing Operation Sanity on the Roads. Judge Batulo Powell, AYV News, Freetown.
Well, meanwhile, bike riders in Makeni have staged a peaceful strike by sitting at home. Now, key among the reasons for this action is the price hike on fuel. To know more on this, our reporter Jonathan Pangu has details.
Transport sector plays a significant role to the socio-economic development of a country. And this is as a result of transporting goods and people from one location to another. In Makeni, this crucial sector has been disrupted for certain reasons, as explained by bike riders.
Looking at the area of the fuel again is very important. So maybe not just look at the two crash elements issue, because according to how we don't understand, we don't get from the central government, say the issue of the two elements, they don't lay them to rest and it don't go viral. So they expect them now for come out, but then still say they're not they come out because the fuel we don't go up now to global crisis, because they say that they compare another countries, them way they feel say fuel in order to the way how it is na this country. So if you really tell us in a global crisis, then they take and they agree on that. Then believe say no more, na Salon no more fuel don't come up, and na Salon no more, then they get a lot of constraints in terms of all the materials they more than they use for their business. And government forgo all angle for try as a leaders, as a parent body, where they man the affairs of the people of this nation. Let them go all out to make sure see all the materials and the fuel where bike they use for do their business, make them make sure they minimize that and put the fuel down.
Some going to their workplaces, and other to their marketplaces to do their normal activities, did trek this morning. Motor drivers are as well affected, as most passengers are transported by motorbikes at various lorry parks in Makeni.
We actually bring them by them, not to cycle. Bike by them, and then it's out of the passenger them, where they can go like MPR, they affect me very great because of some many business with them. Then every goods there, now buy with the year one. If you back up for 2 or 3 days, that's another.
They affect me bad because of the free. We have to know only in the to buy and back to business until we get to the field. So if you get there,
in all this, we contacted the Leone police to know their stance on these developments.
We put out a notice, a public notice, reminding them of their responsibility to maintain order, law and order in the streets. And the aspect of the helmet we've considered, we thought of that, and I think we have compromised in that. Their issue or their problem is not only the idea of having a crash helmet, but they have bikes that are registered. Well, the issue of pump price, the hiking of pump price, is not only Sierra Leone. I know it cuts across the world. We all know.
From that, the emergence of high pathogens such as Ebola, COVID-19, and Lassa fever, with the continued burden of neglected diseases, has highlighted the need for preparedness for emerging and endemic infectious diseases of zoonotic origin within West Africa region. With education and information dissemination among its primary roles, journalists are key to addressing spillover of these outbreaks. Thus, the need for the 3 days training for about 50 journalists from across Sierra Leone by political newspaper on effective and responsible reporting on viral zoonotic diseases. Ronald Moreover was part of the training, and he now reports.
The emergence of disease outbreak, especially those that has to do with zoonotic diseases, makes health reporting more complex and technical. Thus, health journalists and journalists intending to make health reporting their niche requires the needed capacity to be able to educate and provide informative reporting. The 3-day training facilitated by Politico seeks to provide health journalists and upcoming journalists the required capacity to report on viral zoonotic diseases that is becoming a threat in the sub-region.
We brought together over 60 journalists, student journalists, and then practicing journalists, so that they get the requisite capability and capacity to report on health-related issues, zoonotic diseases, with a One Health approach in mind. When we talk about, I keep talking about One Health. When you talk about One Health, then you have in mind the chain, the interconnection and the relationship between the environment, the human health, agriculture, and the animals. So the ultimate goal is to have journalists increase their interest in reporting on environmental issues, One Health, zoonotic diseases.
Politico was supported by Intern News Media grants under the Stop Spillover project. Stella Paul from Intern News explains the importance of credible reporting on zoonotic diseases.
Now, reporting on issues like zoonotic diseases, which is a very sometimes technical issue, it needs to be told from the community end, but it is also a science issue. And that means we have to get the science right. We cannot, there is no room for error and there is no room for fabrication. And when we don't have those skills, that's when mistakes happen, like we saw during the COVID time.
But how impactful was the 3-day training to participants? Some of them shared what they've learned.
This training creates an opportunity for me as a journalist, because I've reported a couple of stories around health, and then to know how to report about it and to be aware that it's part of the One Health issue, because that
this training, it's like an eye opener. So maybe it just broaden my knowledge for me to have time to research more, to master the One Health.
Journalists and media organizations are no doubt well positioned to curtail the spread and by extension prevent the emergence of new pathogens. However, they are mostly limited by lack of information, accurate data, and expertise to interpret such into their reporting. Ronald Jomorovia, AYV News, Freetown.
Now, the Chief Minister, Dr. David Moina Senge, has encouraged inmates and management of the Sierra Leone Correctional Center to incorporate the habit of growing what they eat in line with President Bio's Feed Salon initiative. Dr. Senge was speaking to management of the Correctional Center during his interaction with the inmates. Here's a story compiled by Mohamed Lamin Bania and read in the studio by Elizabeth Momo.
The first of President Bio's Big Five initiatives is to feed Salon. The initiative is an ambitious program to boost the country's staple food production to drastically minimize Sierra Leone's reliance on food imports, increase imports, create jobs, foster economic growth, and reduce poverty. A reason why Chief Minister Dr. David Moinina Senge, who was in the center to interact with inmates and to pay homage to the center's management for their participation during the cleaning of UE building to complement the Big Five agenda by cultivating what we eat.
We have to have agricultural farms. I know the people in here eat a lot, I hear. And it's not always that the food is readily available. So it's important that if we said we should feed Salon, the people in here should also be growing their own food to eat it. So I want to challenge you and the inmates in here to push your farms to make sure that you're able to grow the rice that you eat and that they're able to grow the rice that they eat.
Deputy Director Colonel Sir David Gauja reveals the center is constrained with infrastructure and minimal investment.
So you need money for that.
We need money for building workshops. We need money for building reforms. We need psychologists. We need psychiatrists. We need all kinds of expertise. For dealing with them prisoners, we know they go to thorough reforms. We rehabilitate them. We train them so that they will go back and be skilled people at the society. We will add value.
One thing that was evident during the conducted tour on the facilities at the center is the overwhelming number of inmates. The facility that was originally built to house 300 inmates is currently playing host to 2,000 inmates. Governments in the past have all committed themselves to decongest the facility, but however, nothing seems to have changed.
I know it's been a conversation for a long time, but we will try to accelerate that process to see how we can decongest the space, how we can have real modern correctional facilities for our brothers and sisters who fall short of the law.
Dr. Senge further called for efficiency in the justice system for a speedy trial of inmates in the centers. Elizabeth Momo, AYV News, Freetown.
Now, the Electricity Distribution Supply Authority has written an official application to the Sierra Leone Electricity and Water Regulatory Commission for an adjustment in tariff rate from 11.5% to 23 cents, which will take effect on the 1st of October 2023. Now, Sanepo, who is the Communications and Outreach Officer at EDSA, says inflation and depreciation of the leones against the US dollar has adversely affected the operations of the company, hence the need to increase tariff rate. Our reporter, Memuna Tusuma, has more on the story.
On the 1st July 2022, the Electricity Supply Distribution Authority increased electricity rates to 11.5 cents, which had a major consequence on businesses, companies, and households. Again, the authority has applied to the Sierra Leone Electricity and Water Regulatory Commission, requesting for an increment of 23% on tariff rates. ETSA's Communication and Community Relations Officer, Sanepo, argued that the company is challenged with the depreciation of the leones against the US dollars and inflation, adding that the invoices they pay to the independent power producer are in dollars that have increased significantly.
One is the depreciation of the leones as against the dollar. We've all seen over time that in the last tariff review we did, we did it at 11.5 US cents. From that time to now, we have experienced a lot of changes in both business and market operations. So cost, a lot of things have gone high. Procurement of materials are now very difficult because of the revenue, the income, and all of that. Another challenge we are faced with is inflation. We have recorded over 65% inflation from 2022 to 2023 to date. Since the last time we did an adjustment in the tariff, we've recorded 65% inflation. Now, if you go to buy materials out there, I mean, the inflation rate is at 65%. If you bought a transformer last year at 1 million, now if you go to buy the same transformer, you buy it at 1,650,000 because of the inflation rate. That is seriously eating into our operations, and it's not the invoices we are getting now from the independent power producers are high. They are high because they themselves have also recorded a high cost of fuel and lubricant. Because
an increase in tariff rate will have a serious impact on businesses and households, and under the current economic situation, citizens are concerned that they are faced with an other possible increment at such a difficult and challenging period.
All this time, how the tariff they go safe, it affects not a layman safe, even the money man, except that well connected, but you the money man safe, it affects you. So if they say for add now from this old one, for add the tariff back, then now for kill the poor people, like the layman there, now for kill we, because it is very difficult.
On their part, the Sierra Leone Electricity and Water Regulatory Commission is mandated with the responsibility to seek and protect the interest of consumers from service providers like ETSA. Brahma Kamara, the Director of Economic Regulation, speaks on the actions the Commission is undertaking in reviewing the tariff application from ETSA.
Once we get the application, we publish it in the at least 3 major newspapers, and we also make a publication in the Gazette and give customers about 10 to 20 days for them to comment on the application from ETSA. So that's where we are right now. We already published it in the newspapers. It's already in the Gazette. So we have about 12 days for the customers to write to us in writing, email, or even calls to express their opinion regarding this tariff review.
In his presentation of the supplementary budget in Parliament, Finance Minister Sheku Fantamadi Bangura announced that the government is still providing subsidy to ETSA as they struggle to generate more revenue to pay for electricity. With these ongoing efforts to increase revenue, it is obvious that the public will have to pay more for the electricity they consume. Memuna Tusuma, AYV News, Freetown.
Now, in court updates in the state versus Fatmata Kamara, the accused person, Fatmata Kamara, was alleged of murder after dumping her newborn baby in a toilet pit. She was before the court on a count charge of murder contrary to law. At the close of the case, Fatmata Kamara was found guilty and was sentenced to 24 years imprisonment by Honorable Justice Adrian Fisher of High Court No. 1. Albert Judge Sharif has more.
In the state versus Fatmata Kamara, the particulars of offense stated that Fatmata Kamara, on the 20th of October 2019, in Freetown, in the western area of the Republic of Sierra Leone, killed her newborn baby by dumping it in a toilet pit. She was charged with 1 count of murder and she pleaded guilty to the charge in court. The convict Fatmata Kamara stood before the court dressed in an African dress. She bowed her head, looking remorseful, with tears running down her eyes. She intimated the court that she is a mother of 3 and her act wasn't one that she did intentionally. The courtroom was quiet whilst listening to her plea for mercy to the judge. In his quick submission, State Prosecutor S.C. Kekura told the court that they have made an application for the charge of murder to be reduced to manslaughter, which he said has been amended especially in line with the statement of the offense, noting that she attempted to get rid of the pregnancy several times and in the interim she was called to nature, during which the baby came out from her womb into the toilet pit. The prosecutor further informed the court that later a neighbor heard the cry of the baby and rescued it and took the baby to the hospital where it was placed for 21 days, but the baby could not make it. In his plea in mitigation, the defense counsel Iban Gura told the court that his client was heavily overweight by distress for conceiving for a married man. He added that the convict administered to herself some native pills to get rid of the pregnancy, and following that, later at night, she was called to nature, during which the baby came out from her womb into the toilet pit. After listening to both counsels, Justice Adrian Fisher mentioned the seriousness of the matter, and in addressing the convict, he noted that there was a much more better option like giving the child to someone than dumping it into the toilet pit. The judge, however, heard the charge of murder and sentenced Fatmata Kamara to 24 years imprisonment. Albert Judge Sharif, AYV Freetown.
This is Primetime News on AYV Television and Radio. Stay tuned for more stories after the break.
From dawn to dusk, and from dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days all year round. This dedicated team is here working industriously to bring you
the facts,
the analysis,
the interviews,
the news,
the views from the ordinary people. We set the agenda.
We bring you seamless broadcast.
We cover the happenings.
We give you the angles on the screen.
We cover the events.
We tell the story. We produce the shows.
We commission and ensure the stories are delivered.
We bring you all actions and excitement in sports.
We get our inspiration from you because you have chosen us as the nation's most trusted voice. AYV, the home of all things credible, factual, and of course, all times balanced news.
Welcome back. I am Zulaitu Hamid, and this is AYV's Primetime News. Let's take more stories. Now, over 170 artisanal and small-scale miners and other stakeholders in the mining communities and entities in Kenema and Kailao have been trained on health and safety issues, mining and processing methods, effects of mercury pollution on the environment. Now, the training, which is financed by the African Development Bank through the Climate Smart ASM project, is implemented by the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources and the National Minerals Agency. Yusufu Gamanga Abu has the story and he now reports.
For far too long, the mining sector have been considered as one of the major sources of revenue for governments, either at small or large-scale levels. The industry is characterized by health and safety issues, and ignorance in processing methods have been responsible to less benefits of miners at the lower levels, thus the need for the training. The training is financed by the Africa Development Bank through the Climate Smart ASM project and is implemented by the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources and the National Mineral Agency (NMA) through consultants.
When there is production,
there will be revenue generation. And governments will make more money, right? Through this program, you will be trained on how you will be able to work and increase production.
For increased production.
Mining should take place in the same place where you work, and you are not safe, likewise in Chile. But if you continue to mine and move to another place, a lot of things will continue to happen. Now we have seen this mercury, which is an internationally banned substance, especially in the gold mining.
The consultants of the 2 days training took the participants through health and safety issues, mining and processing methods, effects of mercury pollution on environment in their communities, and as a project, the significance of the training is paramount.
Sort of bringing the artisanal and small-scale miners to train them about the environment, because we know very well that they do mining in an environment, and during the course of mining, there are activities that will have negative impact on the environment.
What did they learn from all is key, but how to replicate it?
We would can learn this today.
I have taken it into cognizance. Never again would I put hands into mercury use, because I have realized it is very harmful. I am going to the community to sensitize my people that it is very harmful and not only for them.
And not to the normal limit.
They don't be for mineral resources from 2012 to 2018, but I've never attended such educative training. So many thanks to them. We learn about mercury, especially the disadvantages, and by His grace, when we
God in power will turn back. We will desensitize with people them.
The knowledge gained on the dangers of mercury substance to community and health is one of the key messages many participants are worried of and hope to fight its use. Yusufu Gamanga Abu, AYV News, Kenema, Eastern Sierra Leone.
Chinese ambassadors have expressed gratitude to the Sierra Leonean government for greatly assisting a rescue and Chinese fishing vessel that was hijacked by unknown pirates in the territorial waters of Sierra Leone towards Liberia in July. Now, the vessel had 23 crew members, both Chinese and Sierra Leonean altogether, with the vessel were rescued safely, and the ambassador calls for celebration. Lucian Kulanda has more.
The Chinese ambassador is well pleased with the Sierra Leone government, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Ministry of Defense, Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the ALSLAV, the Sierra Leone Police for their great assistance in rescuing the Shanghai No. 2 vessel from unknown pirates with crew members all safe.
And on
July 22nd, a Chinese fishing vessel, Shanghai #2, was hijacked in the territorial waters of Sierra Leone by pirates. And then, through our joint efforts, together with the Ministry of Fishery and Maritime Resources, Ministry of Defense, ASLAF, especially Maritime Wing, and Sierra Leone Police. And this vessel was rescued and they returned to Sierra Leone just 2 weeks ago, safe and well. And all of the crew members on board was rescued safely. So I'm very happy to see the return to Sierra Leone. Today, I just host an appreciation reception.
The newly appointed Minister of Fisheries, Madam Princess Duba, graced the appreciation ceremony of the Chinese ambassador.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, it's a great pleasure standing here to hear this news, to share this news with the Chinese embassy.
Deputy Minister of Defense, Honorable Mwana Brahima Massaquoi, said when the vessel was hijacked in Sierra Leone territorial waters towards Liberia, they immediately contacted the Foreign Ministry of Liberia for redress.
Fight illegal maritime activities in our waters and Gulf community at large. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful as a nation to all who contributed in diverse ways to make safe the vessel and crew.
The project manager, Yuan Yufeng, expressed gratitude to the government of Sierra Leone for the efforts to rescue the vessel, saying it embodies the friendship between the two countries. He assured that, going forward, they will continue to do business in Sierra Leone to enrich the aquatic products market. Lucien Kulanda, AYV News.
Let's now go over to London for some international news.
Hello and welcome. This is AYV International News from London with me, Alfred Jallo. The UN said that 1,860 people have been reported killed, injured, or kidnapped in Haiti from April to June, a 14% increase compared with the first 3 months of the year. The surge in gang violence remains centered in the capital of Port-au-Prince and surrounding areas. According to human rights report released by the UN Integrated Office in Haiti, nearly 300 people alone have been killed or injured by snipers in the slum of Cité Soleil. A senior U.S. envoy visiting Beirut said that Washington is looking into possibilities for solving a decade-old border dispute between Lebanon and Israel a year after he brokered a deal on the maritime frontier between the two nations. Amos Hochstein, a senior advisor to U.S. President Joe Biden, also expressed disappointment with Lebanon's reluctance to implement reforms amid the country's historic economic meltdown.
From the beginning, the demand of the negotiating team was for the authorities to sign the decree to modify the map and send it to the UN. This would have made our claim legal.
We demand the amendment of Decree 6433 so that line 29 becomes the line on which indirect negotiations should be based. We demand international law, which is on our side, to be respected.
At least 74 people have died and dozens more were injured after a fire tore through a 5-story building in central Johannesburg, which has been turned into informal housing. Authorities said they have moved through the building floor by floor, searching for survivors and pulling out bodies and laying them on the streets. Officials said at least 12 children were among those killed. They also said the fire has now been extinguished.
At this stage, we don't know what might be the cause of the fire incident. But since it's a hijacked building or an abandoned building, there might be two options here. It might be illegal connection, or it might be other heating devices which they're using. because we are told that at the time when the fire started, they didn't have electricity.
We can now confirm that there's about 73 fatalities. 66 of those are adults and 7 children. Let me at this stage express our condolences to the families and the affected ones of the deceased and hasten to add that all efforts are being put in place to provide the families and all the affected with the relevant social and psychological support through the city's disaster management as well as the provincial social development department. We will do our best to ensure that we act diligently in investigating the fire and equally in our pursuit to reclaim the hijacked and illegally occupied buildings in the city.
And our hearts go out to every person who is affected by this disaster. This incident calls on all of us, from the emergency services and other entities of government, to reach out to survivors, to help restore people's physical, psychological well-being, and to offer all material help and assistance to the residents affected by this. And I do hope that the investigations into the fire will enable communities and authorities to prevent a repeat of such a tragedy.
Guatemala's Congress, which is controlled by the current governing party, has refused to recognize the 7 lawmakers from the Seed Movement Party of President-elect Bernardo Arevalo. This comes following the suspension of his party earlier this week. Lawmakers declared their Seed Movement colleagues independent in the latest move against the party since Arevalo's landslide win in August 2020. Prosecutors have accused the Seed Movement of wrongdoing in gathering signatures for the party's registration years earlier. This is it for now for AYV International News from London with me, Alfred Jallo. Thank you for joining us.
Let's now join Ransford McLean for the latest in sports.
All right, thank you so much, Zuliat Hamid. Now to the first story in football. Libyan outfit Al Ittihad SC on their official press release dated 16th August 2023 has requested that Musa Nwakama, known as Musa Tombo, who is on loan to Bo Rangers Football Club, should return as he still has valid contract with them and will end on the 14th August 2024. Al Ittihad SC have threatened to file a case against him to FIFA Dispute Resolution Chamber if he fails to honor his contract. Let's have the report.
The Libyan top-tier side, Al Ittihad Sporting Club, in a letter dated August 16, 2023, has reminded Musa Noah Kamara, fondly known as Musa Tombo, that he has a valid contract which started on August 15, 2022 and will end on August 14, 2024. The 23-year-old Kamara signed a 2-year deal with the Libyan champions on September 1, 2022. However, the Libyan giant Al Ittihad Sporting Club has reminded Musa Noah Kamara, known as Musa Tombo, to commit himself to the team no later than September 1, 2023. If he fails to do so, they will file a case against him with the FIFA Dispute Resolution Chamber. Al Ittihad SC has won the Libyan Premier League 19 times, the Libyan Cup 7 times, and the Libyan Super Cup 10 times. Meanwhile, Sierra Leone Premier League side Lawa FC has made an official bid for Musa Tombo from Al Ittihad SC ahead of the new season. Kamara, who was on a 6-month loan to Bo Rangers FC, saw his contract expired on June 30th of this year. The talisman played a major part for Bo Rangers and guided them to win the 2022-2023 Sierra Leone Premier League season with an unbeaten record. In another development, former Eastern Lions and Freetonian Sleeper Holden midfielder Abu Dumbuya, known as Abu Dhabi, has joined Turkish Gents League Juku club. Before his departure to Turkey, Doumbouya was the captain for the local side Freetonian Slifer and won the 2019-2020 Sierra Leone Premier League with Eastern Lions before later joining Slifer. Fatmata Sisei, AYV Sports, Freetown.
And finally, that has to do with cricket. Sierra Leone Cricket Association has extended its community cricket coaching clinic as a cricket awareness program in the Western Area Rural in Freetown. Development Manager, Cricket Sierra Leone Limited, Edward Mara, said developing upcoming cricketers are their priority for the progress of the sport. Samuel Joannis-Pias has more on the story.
Cricket Sierra Leone Limited is engaging kids at 52 communities across the country on their cricket coaching clinic, which is to catch up with the rules and a way of popularizing the sport across the country. Development Manager Cricket Sierra Leone Limited, Edo Mara, said their aim is to connect these selected kids with cricket and modify Kiro tournaments for all categories.
Well, a few weeks back, we have started this community coaching clinic around Freetown. We want to spread the game to the kids. And the essence of this community coaching clinic is to train and discover young talent and train them for future purpose to represent Sierra Leone in international tournaments. That's why we are doing this. We have started it in Freetown, and we have also progressed to the provinces also. And countrywide, we are targeting 37,000. For now, we are close to 10,000. We have covered some part in the western urban, so some area in the western urban like the Salon area, Kurube, Komon-Tok, the Coleton, some parts in Brookfields, and also we have moved to the rural area like Jue, Hastings. We have done the clinic there also. It's not easy in a way. We cannot provide for them all. We cannot provide. But we are utilizing actually, because cricket kit is very expensive and we don't have cricket shop in Sierra Leone. So what we are doing, we are going to this local carpenter. They are doing this local stuff for us, which we are sharing to the communities for continuity training.
The community coaching clinics are to identify young talented cricketers and develop them to represent the country in the future. Samuel Joannis-Pias, AYV Sports, Freetown.
That's all for sports. And back to Zulatu Hamid in the studio.
Thanks, Gansford, for the sports update. Well, that's all for Primetime News for tonight. For more stories, visit our website on www.ayvnews.com. Now, if you have any comments on the news, please send an email to info@ayvnews.com. I am Zulatu Hamid. Many thanks for watching and listening. Have a lovely weekend.
You're watching AYV Television.
Just one platform for news every day in our country, Salon. For education, entertainment, political affairs, TV. We got enough Tanga one inside Sierra Leone, like a big country. We breeze not a shit,